AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody. We go live on Saturdays to answer questions for everybody, and we haven't done it in a while, so kind of getting back. Oh wait, did we do it? No, we didn't do it last week, did we?
Nope.
So we're getting back to it. But thanks for everybody who joins us live. Thanks to Tony for jumping in from New Jersey. We didn't even chat. We just kind of jumped right in. So what's been going on in your neck of the woods?
Let me see. With me personally, we had a machine gun shoot I went to in support of the firearms industry consulting group run by Josh Prince over in Pennsylvania. So that was fun to go support them, give them some money, and shoot some machine guns over there with, I think it's DNA Guns or DNA Arms. I forget which one. But it was really good to see those guys and regular people that come out and own, class 3 firearms, and they let you, buy a mag of ammo and do a dump. A lot of fun. Then I just had a couple of nights ago, we had a diversity shoot at Recoiled range in Monroe, New Jersey. That was sold out actually, and we had a packed house. A couple people didn't come, which really threw off my pizza math. I ended up ordering too much food. A couple kids didn't want to eat, so that kind of sucked. But whatever, man. Hey, it was a lot of fun. And we got an extra event coming up. We were able to squeeze in at the beginning of December. So today or tomorrow, I'm going to do a live and announce all the new dates, for the end of the year, because we have 3 more events, 2 in December and 1 on the 20th of November. So we have 3 more dates this year, and I look forward to it. Oh, yeah. And Monday, I'm going to go to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, to celebrate Marine Corps birthday. Marine Corps was founded in Tun Tavern in 1775, and somebody bought the name Tun Tavern. And Friday was their soft open, and they built the Tun Tavern. Supposedly, it looks like they built it in the fashion of colonial taverns, with a menu from colonial days. And their grand opening is, of course, the 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. And they're going to do some special stuff. So hopefully I can get over there after work. And hell, I'll just stand in line to be at Tun Tavern on the 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps and go home after that. I don't care. But yeah, so that's what's going on with me.
Very cool. Yeah, 250 is a good one. Nice round number.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to be around for the 300th one, probably. So I might as well roll with that 250.
Well, you never know. Got robots coming, robot bodies.
Yeah, you never know.
But that's cool though. So I was gonna say, I wonder if we were gonna end up talking about the birthday or not. Of all the branches, you guys do the most effort, or I wouldn't even call it effort, but you guys include your history in your call it basic or whatever. But from what I understand, compared to the rest of us, we have to learn some stuff, but we don't have to learn. We're not tested on it very much after the fact. But
yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, after you still do it.
Well, when you got to be a part of a cult, you got to learn the background. I mean, really, it is. It really is putting everything on it to make you feel a part of something that's older than, no matter what the poop sandwich you're eating, there was someone prior to you that ate that same poop sandwich, and not only did they survive, but they thrived. So that's pretty much what I think it is. It's yeah, you think it's cold now, man. Chosin Reservoir was even colder, and they were surrounded by 5 Chinese divisions. And they packed up stuff and walked out.
It gives respect to the dudes that did stuff, and then it fuels the people who may have to do stuff, just knowing that camaraderie or that brotherhood exists. That you guys have a unique job description often. So in order to do that job, I can imagine that level of esprit de corps. I'd say it doesn't need to be there. You could make people do it, I guess, but that's not the way you guys do it. Anyway, I think that shows a lot. I never really knew about that stuff. My experience with Marines growing up was little, I think. I mean, I must have known a couple. I think one of my uncles was a Marine, but because he was the only one, any Marine traditions and stuff, you know what I mean? Like he would have done that with his Marine friends, obviously not with us, or at least I didn't hear nothing about it. So it wasn't until, I'm trying to think, when I started to learn about you guys having, well, they're different than VFW halls. Like there's VFW halls I've always known about. That's for all the branches. You guys, I'm sure, go to them. But then you'll have, well, what do you call them? Is there a special name for them? Or
What's that?
a name for? I don't know. The Marine clubs that exist where you guys have your
Oh.
birthdays and stuff.
No, I don't know. I've never been to any of them. I mean, I've never made it a special thing because I'm just that dude that doesn't like going out.
Yeah.
And there's various organizations you can go to and be part of, and I've just avoided those. I really have. I'm proud of my time in the Marine Corps, and just like any other Marine, you gotta we got to tell you we're one. I mean, it's almost contractual, but it's like a Navy SEAL has to write a book. Marines have to tell you they're in the Corps. But I never went out of my way to join Marine Corps League or anything like that. I like it, but yeah, nah, never did it. And yeah, I think it's called a Marine Corps League. I don't know if they go drinking at special places or whatnot. Like I went to,
Well, you know, like the
VFW.
Leatherneck Club in Vegas, and then
You mean like
like a
yeah,
there's names for them, but basically I call them Marine clubs. But
yeah, no,
similar to like, you know, you'll see like a Elks or a Moose or one of those lodges or something, and then the Marines will have their own clubs. Now sometimes they look like biker bars because a lot of Marines are bikers, and so I'm sure they all have different flavors. But anyway, I just think it's interesting. And like I say, I didn't learn about that till later, and then I don't know. I think it's just one of those things. Once you learn about, then you pay attention. Like, oh, that isn't just a bar; it's a Marine bar. You know, that kind of thing.
yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm happy about it, but yeah, it's funny because you don't see the other services like that.
Maybe
And
the
for me,
SEALs. I was just thinking the SEALs because there's this one SEAL that had opened up a number of restaurants in Tucson, and
Oh,
I mean,
really?
that's just a number of restaurants. But then one of the things about the restaurant is above the bar, they've got all these like brass mugs, maybe some kind of mugs, and metal mugs though, and maybe they're copper. I have no idea, but it must be some Navy thing. I'm assuming it's some Navy thing because they're all the same, and there's a ton of them, like hundreds of them. It seems like. So I'm guessing on some birthday or something, or you know maybe somber occasions they get together and then you know use those for a toast. I can imagine, but you know that's the thing. Like if that stuff happens, the Army's just too big. So if that stuff happens in the Army, it happens in areas or you know what I mean. Like everybody's got their own little things. There's nothing really Army wide. Maybe that parade that just happened. That's why people think that parade was for Trump or whatever. That's about the only thing I can think of that brought the Army would have brought the Army together. But seriously, the only thing that brings the Army together is when you rip a chunk out of us. Like if you take the Air Force out of us, like okay, you know, like now we remember, you know, kind of realize how big the Army is. But you know, the Army is just I think taken for granted. Sort of like the Navy. You know, there's just too many of us. And there's you know there's no tradition of guns amongst the whole thing.
Well, it's like, you know, the Army and the Navy. Well, Army has uh, divisions and divisions that have like their own unique history. You know, 101st, 82nd,
Right.
things like that. 10th Mountain, like they have their own esprit de corps, but it's like a unit wide thing. I mean, even though it's a large unit, but that's it. I mean, Marine Corps wide. I mean, even when I was in, we only had 192,000 Marines. That was it. And the Marine Corps has always been. I mean, it took until what World War One for the Marine Corps to even have I think, battalion or division battalion. I don't know. I forget which one. I do apologize. But yeah, it took us that long for us to get a unit that big. I mean, during the Seminole War, Marine Corps headquarters, the commandant put on the front door of Marine Corps headquarters, gone to Florida to fight Indians, and left. Like that's how small the Corps was.
Yeah, I think you're the one that turned me on to that Dead Warrior Society. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's Planned Dead Poets Society. But I'm
Yeah.
hoping he does something. He's more of an Army guy, it seems like. But if he did something, it'd be cool for him or somebody like him to do something about Marines. I'm sure I've listened to things or I've heard about the history of the Marines in various times, but back in the old days, it would have been probably abbreviated or really watered down if we saw it on TV or radio or something like that. Now that there's internet and stuff can be a little bit more realistic or more, I don't know, authentic, I guess, without pulling punches necessarily. I just don't know if I've heard an actual interview where somebody broke down the Marines. There might have been one out there and I just didn't tune into it. I'm sure it must have happened. I've definitely heard like when Marsoc got stood up and then other like pieces of the Marines that, because the Marines, from my understanding, you all just stand in there. Like you said, you kind of were small, but you're willing and you also got tasked with stuff, but you're also like ambitious. So, as a force in general, when the Navy would be like, I don't know if we can do it, the Marines would be like, we'll do it. And some of that stuff you got to keep doing. And then sometimes they took that stuff away and gave it to other, just didn't use it a lot of times. We've talked about that, I think. We just throw stuff away all these time. But anyway, it would be interesting to hear something because the Marines are something where you could probably sit down in a couple of hours and describe the entire from zero to now, even though it's so long, just because you guys just haven't been a giant thing. There's, you could literally encompass a lot of it. And I just don't know. Like I say, if I've heard that, I haven't retained it. So I would be interested. And this is a great time of a year at least to reflect on that.
Yeah, I mean it's a cult, whatever. I don't even know what those words mean. Sometimes people just like use them. But it is. I think one of the coolest people I've met was a Marine veteran from pre-World War II. I was at my parents' shop. He came in. He had an older guy. Had on a Marine Corps hat. The scarlet hat with the gold letters USMC on it. Had the Eagle Globe and Anchor. And I was like, "How you doing, sir? Semper Fi." And he was like, "Semper Fi, you were in?" I was like, "Yes, sir. I just got out. I recently got out, like that year." I said, "When did you serve, sir?" My man said 1936, 1946. I think it was 1936, 1946, or 1934. Anyway, yeah, he did a decade, but he was a pre-World War II Marine, and he was stationed in China. So he was not only a pre-World War II Marine, he was what we call in Marine Corps a China Marine. So he was in the international city. He was stationed there, and he was also a horse Marine. So that's even like more rare because Marine Corps had a horse unit in China that rode Mongolian ponies, and I got to meet one of those guys, and that was effing cool. Uh, and we bullshitted for like an hour, and it wasn't an old white dude that grew up in the segregated Corps. You know what I mean? That probably who the heck knows what he thought of people that look like me. It was just two Marines talking, and that was really cool. And when I first got out that very same year, I was in Richmond, Virginia. And you know those historical signs you see when you drive down the street, this is that. And
Yeah.
I saw one that said Marine Corps Raider Museum. So I followed the signs. Oh, it's ahead. Oh, it's around the corner. All right. So I pull up and I'm in a residential area. Nice house, not huge houses, but what do you call those? Like just brick houses, kind of row home, kind of close together in Richmond. And it said Marine Corps Museum was here, but it looked like a regular house. So I walk up like, okay. I knock on the door, and yeah, it was the guy who actually opened up Marine Raider Museum in his home. And the flyer was a mimeographed sheet of paper that he'd folded on three quarters. And that had all his information in it. And I walked in, I'm speaking to him, and he was one of the Marine Raiders from World War II. And he had a lot of his stuff, and he was still cool with his boys. And they just put together everything because nobody had a Marine Corps Raider anything dedicated to them, and they were only active for a very short time. I mean, they recently were brought back, but they were only active for like 3 years, and he wanted to keep it alive. So he got together and he turned his home into a Marine Raider Museum, and he and I hung out, I don't know, hour, 2 hours. I don't know. It was just a really cool freaking memory of walking around with him showing me their fighting knives and their equipment, and us having conversations about it, and him asking me what the Corps is like now. He passed away, and his family put that's actually part of the United States Marine Corps Museum in Quantico now. But I got to see that when it was in his house. So those are two of my coolest Marine Corps memories.
Right on. I just threw it into the robots here. Yeah, it says the Raiders were around from 42 to 44. So, like a lot of things, they were like, okay, we're done. So let's just throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You served your purpose. I mean, there was Marine Corps Raiders and there was Marine Parachute Battalion too. They got rid of that. I don't even think they did it. I think maybe they did one combat jump, but they pretty much used as light infantry. But they were some hard hitting dudes and like well trained in small unit tactics and badassery. And a lot of people in the Corps felt that you were taking dudes out that could have, be used in other units. Like you scraped off the cream of the crop and then put them in this one unit that was high risk. And they always say that about special units. They said it about the Rangers. They said it about airborne. It's like, well, yeah, sorry, but you can't have everyday people doing stuff that's high risk, high talent. You have to be trained up to it.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is it's really the people. I mean, yeah, you've got to have people that have grit or whatever, like have stamina, have ambition to do it. But once you've got a bunch of people that are willing to do it and have an interest in doing it, then it's just a matter of you can think about anything you were really good at, like anything, literally baking a cake or chatting on the phone or playing some video game or something, like whatever you were good at 10 years ago, try doing it right now. Like, are you going to be good at it? No. What if it's something you were really good at 2 years ago? Can you do it right now? Like, I'm learning that. No. Like, I'm trying to put together a deck of cards. I've put together like 3 or 4 decks of cards over the years. I was pretty good. Probably dozens of decks of cards now. I'm thinking about it, like little projects and stuff. Because once I knew how to do it, I applied that skill all the time when I needed to. Now I'm trying to do it thinking, oh, I'm just going to brush off that skill set. No. So like anything, you need to be good. And when you need to be ultimately good, like, somebody who's needs to be immediately available at any time to do the hardest stuff, you basically, like you say, you got to be training constantly for that stuff. And it's not like you have to be, you have to be on all the time, but you have to just be like, that's your daily thing. Like, just like firefighters or something, we make fun of them because they sit around, but most of the time they're worrying about doing their jobs right and up training and skill building and, resting their muscles in between, I suppose, by sitting around eating all the time. But there's something to be said for, you need that resource or something, like you need that time, I guess, to stay sharp. Otherwise, that's why you don't have volunteer fire departments next to nuclear silos or something. Like, you need a full-time fire department that knows what's up when you're going to need them, or maybe next to a paper factory or something. Is Patriot still out there? He was posting. I noticed he taped up the dog tags. Did you guys do that back in your day? We would tape up our dog tags.
I was in the air
wing. Weren't allowed to.
I was in the air wing, dude. We didn't worry about that. I mean, I did have one in. Did I do that? I can't remember whether I had one in the jungle boot or not. But it was between wars. You know what I mean? So that was some. That was some.
But because they never needed them, we would just tape them, and technically you had them on all the time, I guess, but you didn't think about it. And at least I think you had to put them around your neck. I think
we had them.
But anyway, we would tape them, like I said, my unit. And whenever I was in training, I would get shit sometimes for even having tape on them. And even if I had pulled the tape off, like the residue and stuff, it's like, go bite me. Like, nobody needs these ever. So anyway, I just noticed that Patriot had done that, and I was just curious if that was. I just remember getting, yelled at for that shit. And on the other hand, sometimes in training, they're just looking for shit to yell at you about.
True.
Brooke corked. I think I did a show it last week anyway. Or did I?
Yeah.
I can't remember. And Brooke corked it by just going rogue and going live in the middle of the day. But I think she's doing her show at her regular time today, which reminds me I probably should go set it up so that our show smashes into her show, or like directs people over to her show, I guess a better way to say it.
Also, I got to hook that link up that Burke sent me because she's in a contest for body transformations. Congratulations. You look great. I need to get that out there for her.
What is this about? What are we talking about?
Oh, yeah. She's in the competition where you can actually vote for her. She's the body transformation competition.
Oh,
Burke
okay.
is. Where we at? What the Harry heck?
All right, so now we got it set up so that it'll direct to Brooke when we're over. When the show ends, it'll direct everybody over to Brooke's show.
Cool.
I usually try to do that before the show, but I totally forgot about it this week, so I'm doing it right there.
So,
Patriot
go ahead.
Scripts out there on the 1911.
Mhm.
He had his channel taken down, so over here on YouTube. So his new one, that's what he commented on earlier, is PITD, Patriot in the Dark Retro. So that's lame. So in other words, he had his channel smashed or whatever happened to it. I don't think they even told him, which is one of the more annoying things when they do that. You know, sometimes they'll remove your channel, but they'll give you some vague reason why. I guess occasionally they'll tell you exactly why, but most of the time they'll just say, we didn't like something. In his case, I don't think they told him anything. They just removed his channel. So, he has a new channel starting from zero. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off there.
Nope. I was just trying to find the message Brooke sent me. I just gave her a follow on Instagram. So I guess she sent me the message on Facebook, not Instagram. I'll have to find it. Yeah, so it's crazy. But I saw his those Marine Corps emblem 1911 grips, and I'm like, gotta buy 1911 now. I got 2 boxes and 45 ACP here, so I might as well buy a 1911. Actually, I'm reaching out to a couple of companies who people know me, and I'm going to try to get 1911 for the diversity shoot. I mean, we grew up with the 1911 versus Glock, layup articles. I mean, just the easiest entertainment bullcrap that you can find. And of course, that whole thing is transferred to YouTube. And I'm looking at it, right? And I'm like, how come every time they do a 1911 versus Glock 19 or even Glock 17 thing, they never compare a 9mm Glock 45? A 1911. And I'm like, it's not like it's new. It's been out since 49 or 51, depends on which one you want to call it. They started developing in 49, so it's 70 years, 75 years. There have been 9mm 1911s. I'm like, it's like there's nothing new about it. I listen to people. Oh, it's traditional caliber. No. When does tradition kick in? Again, it's the 75th anniversary of the 9mm 1911. I think 38 Super was like 1925. Like within less than 20 years after the 1911, or pretty much a decade after the 1911 was developed, it had the 38 Super, which is a 9mm plus P. I'm like, could we stop with the crappy, disingenuous bullcrap? I'm like, a lightweight Commander with a 4.5-inch barrel is a pretty good comparison to a Glock 19X. It's like a 4-ounce difference if you have the aluminum frame. I'm like, you can actually do a comparison. And for someone like me that lives in a non-free state that I'm stuck with 10-round magazines, having a thinner gun with a better trigger, carrying it appendix makes more sense all the way around than buying a Glock 19 or a Glock 19X and trying to do the same thing with a thicker gun with no external safety. shoving it down the front of my pants.
Trying to think
That's
about
why.
what you originally asked there. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
Oh, it's just a comparison. When everyone ever does a comparison between Glocks and 1911s, they always bring out a single stack 45 ACP 1911 all steel versus a Glock 17 or a Glock 19. And they go, see, the Glock is so much better. And I'm like, I guess if you compare apples to cantaloupes, yeah. Compare apples to apples.
Yeah, I guess that's
And I
what I was
went,
going to say is back in the day when the Glocks first came out and the 1911s were kind of more common, and most of the debate was amongst people who are observers anyway, because we didn't carry as a general rule back then. The cops who did,
Mhm.
even if they did carry for work or something, they couldn't carry at home, so it almost didn't matter because when they carry at work, they don't just get to carry whatever they feel like or what's trendy. They carry what they're told. So who cares what their opinion is? They're carrying whatever they're told at their department. So it was kind of a moot point, but we would have these discussions anyway, because why not?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking probably part of the reason that, like, you're right, like we would debate all, and I don't disagree, we would debate all the time a 1911 metal 45 ACP, single action, double action, versus this striker fire double action only, essentially, whatever you want to call that,
Mhm.
plastic 9mm double stack gun that weighed nothing compared to the other one. Now, there wasn't a track record, so people were concerned about reliability. They had no idea that clocks were going to be essentially ultimately reliable, but
Mhm.
especially compared to what was available today. But it wasn't like back then that was the two things. So yeah, you were biting into a lot of different differences, but because that's what was laid down on the table, right? Like in whatever it was, 86 or 84 or whatever it was, that's or 82, whatever
Mhm.
year it was, that's when he laid it down. And it wasn't until another couple of years, because all they did is mess with the size right away. It wasn't until another couple of years till they started making the Glock and other calibers, and the Glock had some time on the clock, and some departments had used it under stress and stuff. So then the debates developed. But I'm thinking now it's almost silly to come up with a 1911 single stack, like you say, and call that traditional. Like, yeah, traditional when we were kids, or maybe in the 90s, but like we weren't really kids back then anymore. But nowadays, like if you're carrying around a 1911 period, 9mm or not, you're either trying to make a point, like you're got some kind of hairstyle that's making a point, and your gun is going to make a point. It's like part of your statement that you're doing, or you're old, and that's probably part of your statement, because old people can keep up with the Joneses. Like old people can understand the new stuff. So if you're old and you're like, nope, I'm staying old and I'm determined to not change, and if it was good enough for my dad, it's good enough for me. Again, it's really making a point. But you know what I mean? There's like those two extremes of people carrying a 1911 anymore. So I guess people are probably bringing it up, like, nowadays, because of, like you said, they make things that are technically 1911s now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. It's
So
not just apples and oranges. It's like fruit and steak. You know what I mean? It's like kind of
yeah.
different things,
So
right?
I'm like, let's make it real. All right, let's make it real and compare the things that are at least in the same caliber category, weight category, and size category. And I'm like, and and like you said, so many people got 2011s and they're carrying them now and they're acting as if they invented something. I'm like, bro, if John Moses Browning came back now, Staccato'd have to write him a check. It's like, can we stop acting like you got something different? You don't. You have a 1911. All the things that made it obsolete right before Staccato got new management and started spending money on influencers, are still in existence. You still have to keep it cleaner. You still have to keep it wet or lubed. It still has a grip safety and a thumb safety. You know, things you said were obsolete when you all were dumping a crap ton of money into Glocks that were, you know, sent out to, I can't even think of all the places that Glocks were sent to. Remember, they used to have them all done up, Agency Arms, and all those companies that could take your regular Glock and cut it all to pieces and cut the slide and undercut it and put triggers on it and, you know, make your Glock that ran well, uh, run iffy, but it looked really cool and it was in all the videos.
And remember the era, I guess it may be the 2009 maybe 10, maybe 9 to 13 ish, where you would send your frame off and somebody would take something to it, either like a
Mm-hmm.
stippler or a drill or something, and then like you'd get it back with some sort of a customized frame texture, I guess you call it, or grip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they put texture on it, and they do all kinds of things. And you'd be like, "Oh wow, that's really crazy. That's great." What's funny is
Oh, I like
people
them,
don't.
but it's like,
Yeah.
it's like a lot. It's sort of like when people back in, it's like reminiscent of, again, back in those olden days of 1911s. But one of the reasons we never talk about this, I don't think, but now that we're talking about it, it makes sense. I remember my dad did this all the time. He'd have like 1911s because two of them were always in the damn shop having something done to him. Like those things you could do yourself. He wasn't like incompetent, but he would still take stuff to a gunsmith who was like, in the business of working on guns. Yeah, they're going to be gone for like weeks, right? So it's like, especially if you're shooting for like any kind of competition or anything, you're going to have extra guns just from that factor. And then, you're going to, that if you're going to put sights on them, you're going to put your one gun in, and then you're going to get it
Yep.
back and put your other gun in. So you're still going to only be one gun. You might have 8 guns, but at any one time, you probably have 6, like that you can use.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I had to look it up because it was really bothering me. It was Salient Arms and it was Agency Arms. Those were the big ones that if you were really tactical, those would be the guns you had as a tactical dude that had to have the cutting edge Glock. I always thought that was great. And now there's not so much. And there's also manufacturers like Lone Wolf and dang, what's the name of this other company that makes a whole line of Glocks that have all these cutouts in them and stuff? Can't even think of the name of it. I'm
There's
seeing
a
in my
few.
head. Anyway,
I mean, I don't know which ones are still
yeah.
around, but like you said, the tastes
No.
change, and then
So
if they work versus what they look like, time will determine if that company's going to stick around.
Well, the funny thing is, though, just like everything else comes and goes, probably in another 10 years, what's going to be the fad is to make your guns look like those guns that were from 10, 12 years ago customized. You know what I mean? Because that's what's happening with 1911s now. Packmeyer combat specials, or whatever they called them, and guns that were custom made in the 70s and the 80s are now being called retro 1911s and being put out by companies to make them look like those guns. I just think it's great. And also always, 1911s are still all the way around from, World War II, World War One. People love that retro look too.
Well, something's about to happen here, and I don't know if, I imagine we might have addressed it a little bit, but the baby boomers, when they start to sell their collections, let's just put it that way, when their collections start to hit the market, what's that going to do to guns? Is that going to create a demand? Like, because every time somebody walks into a gun shop, I'm thinking of so everybody can picture this. If you've watched any of the Wilson combat videos, when like Hackathorn and Masada Yub were chatting, or somebody and some of these old guys sitting there chatting, or like I think it was Hackathorn. Somebody did like here's my 1911s out of the safe video, and he had like a table full of 1911s. And they are all these like goofy old man 1911s. Like, I use this one for bowling pin shooting, and I use this one for shooting the heads off of rabbits or something, and I use this one for when I went to this place or something, and I carried this one when I was a cop or something. And they all look different, and they're neat. It's like looking at somebody who has like 1,200 hot rods or 6 different police cars or something. But yeah, I'm just wondering when that stuff hits the market, and it's all these weird guns for all these different reasons. And we've seen some Bubba guns growing up. But for the most part, we don't. I mean, name anybody who that sells guns. Like every once in a while, you meet somebody that sells guns. But our generations and older, you don't sell guns, and most of the younger generations, you just don't sell them. They're just too good an investment. I just did a blog post about this. Like, it's a silly thing to sell when you can put $500. It's a useful thing in your drawer, in your pocket, in your a bag. You can keep it in the closet. You can hide it in the rafters. Like, it's just too valuable a thing that's never going to lose its value, really. And sometimes they go up in value. So it's just a dumb thing to think that people are getting rid of them. So knowing that, people are holding on to them. But once you get to later in the life, you might be, hey, I need a vacation, or I need a surgery, or I want to give something to the kids this week, this Christmas, and this is a thing I can move to get that thing that they want. So I'm guessing we're going to see, that's a massive generation, and they're not quite to the point where they have to liquidate, but they're getting there. It'll either happen or they'll want to. And we're going to see this
out there.
change in gun shops where like a lot of stuff is going to exist. And I'm wondering if it's just going to get shuffled to other collectors who are old and then get really weird, or if it'll, like I say, spark something and all these kids will be like, oh, I can buy these guns for half the price of a fancy gun and I can do whatever I want to it, or I can have something that's already souped up and look at how light the trigger is. Anyway, I'll shut up.
No, I think listen, the younger generation, the guys I'm introducing to firearms right now, and I'm talking Thursday's event, where we had guys in we had a 13-year-old, we had a 15-year-old, and we had some guys in their mid-20s come out and touch guns for the very first time. And my guys, of course, had 1911s out there on the line. They had the revolvers. They had ARs, and these kids are taken in by the ARs, but they also liked revolvers and they liked the hammer fire guns. We had a Staccato out there. We had the new Kimber double stack 2011 out there. So the rules or whatever, it's a squiggly line now. There's no straight. If you're 20 something, you're getting a Glock and an AR. If you're this, you're getting a this. If you're a contrarian, you're getting an AK. All that's gone. One, AKs are more expensive, and the ammo's harder to find. So there's not a bunch of dudes doing that. So now you have AR-15s. You have lever actions that they really dig. And now, again, like you said, when these guns go up on the market of dudes that were of 20 years older, 30 years older than us, you're going to have things like lever actions, revolvers, Smith & Wesson number series, semi-automatics, buttload of 1911s. And you got a new generation of people who will probably be in the market for that stuff because they don't have those same rules of, I think it was the War on Terror and video games that were pushing, the latest, the greatest, the Polymer, the AR. They don't have that now. They have video games that do throwbacks to World War II, the Red Death Redemption.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so their things are different than the ones from that generation. It's cool to watch it, and it's also kind of funny to watch. Somebody's 20 years old, gonna give a history of a freaking firearm, and they're just reading the Wikipedia entry.
Yeah.
It's and then there was the Miami shootout in the 1990s, or maybe it was 80s. I don't remember. It's
it was in the 1900s, though.
Yeah, it was in the definitely it was in the 1900s. Oh, near the end of the last century.
Oh, so this reminded me of the new Predator. So I'm watching the new Predator. There's a new Predator movie out. I don't know if you paid attention to this.
I've seen the ads and stuff.
Okay. So I don't know how big a fan you are of Predator. Most of the time I like Predator, and then there's some dumb ones, there's some bad ones, and then there's some good ones. So I'm going to watch them. I'm going to see what the movie is. And sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. Right. So this one, I watched it the first time and I'm like, oh, this is a different Predator. For one, Predator's walking around talking, and I'm not used to Predator walking around talking. And they're just talking in English. So it's not even like squiggly crayfish talk or something. Right? It's just talking in English. So I'm like, all right. And they make a thing kind of like the robot that's talking to them translates or whatever. Okay, so they're doing it so we don't have to read this whole thing the whole time. That's fine. But it is the kind of movie where it could have been you had to read it because it's really an action movie. It's kind of like stranded on a planet, stranded on an island type of situation, and they're kind of thrown together and they're going to be friends type of thing. So it's younger brother Predator gets beat up, gets stranded on the planet, younger sister robot, younger sister critter. Now they're the younger brother, sister force team. Like, now they're forced, they're teamed up and they're doing their missions, and all their missions kind
Mm-hmm.
of converge. What do you know? So I'm watching it and I'm thinking, what, like, oh, this is wrong with it, and this is wrong with it. And then about halfway through, I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. This is good. And then I'm like,
Okay.
okay. And then, and then they wrote it good, and I'm trying not to spoil nothing, but
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of the gist of it. And I'm like, somewhere halfway through it, I'm like, you know what? I'm just looking at this through the eyes of somebody who's watched all these Predators. And the first Predator is awesome. It's amazing because it's different, but none of the
Mm-hmm.
other Predators, like, they immediately started ruining Predator. It's not as though Predator was awesome and this movie's different. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I just said, they've really taken Predator and just whipped it all around, and it's weird now. So anyway, so it's not like I'm bringing a lot of luggage to this Predators, I guess what I'm saying. And I've been watching this since like the 80s, I guess. It's been a long time since
Yeah.
I've watched these movies. Anyway, so I took a step back and I went, you know what? I'm looking at this from somebody who's just maybe watching Predator for the first time. I can't imagine what it's like being young, period, but young today, it would be crazy, right? But watching this as a youngin', and I'm thinking, what are the movies that we like? At least I like Red Dawn. I like movies where it's the
Mm-hmm.
underdog, the kid, the person who's learning. Guess what? When I was a kid watching these movies, it was us. It was our age. It was our generation figuring it out and doing it no matter what our parents told us, in spite of the odds. And that's pretty much every movie if you watch it, right? So we watch some of this old stuff, and it's like I just immediately put my grandparents in it when I'm watching somebody young in an old black and white movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even, it's something that I guess our brains do, maybe because we were so used to it. And it's just something that I never had thought about. But anyway, I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but I think they're writing movies the same way they always have to the young generation who watches the movies. And the young generation always wants to be the one who figures it out, can do it in spite of the parents, in spite of the big brothers or whatever. And, still kind of using what's familiar and able or available to them as tools. They solve the problem. So where us, it would have been grab a whip and a whatever. What's that guy? Indiana Jones used a whip and
Indiana
a
Jones. Yeah.
revolver, right? And we're okay with that because we were familiar with whips or whatever. Little kid today, what do they know about a whip? You know what I mean? Unless some video game has a whip in it. So for them, using some kind of video console, that makes more sense. So anyway, I'm watching it, just looking at it differently, like a drone thing. Like, I'm all into drones right now. So when they have a little drone thing in the movie, I'm like, that makes sense. The same way we would have used a revolver because, we're familiar with them. Yeah, they're using a little drone thing as the tool. So anyway, I really thought that was interesting that what you're kind of saying there, that with the potential of, people appreciating what's available with new eyes. I don't know if that's the way you were saying it, but that's how I was
Mm-hmm.
seeing it. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably just the inevitable cycle that we're all gonna, we're
Go
in it
through.
somewhere, right? Yeah, exactly. We all go through it in life.
Yeah,
maybe.
we're so you are here now in this
Yeah,
particular
exactly.
cycle. So I got into Predator through the comic books. I mean, the movie came out. The first movie came out. Then the second movie came out. Then the comic book series. I think in that order, or at least maybe that's how I
So
freaking came upon it.
that's how I remember it
Um,
too. I think because my friends were really into comic books. I didn't really read it, but I knew of it.
So I think Dark Horse was the ones that picked up the Predator comic book line. So I was deep into it then. And they were always trying to figure out a way to team up the Predator with a human. And that was that god awful third movie that was in the Antarctic. That was just
Oh,
horrific.
you didn't like
Like
that
it,
one? Predator versus
oh
Alien?
yeah, the Predator versus Alien that was so freaking dark. It was almost a radio show. And it was like, what's the
Yep.
point? I just they tried so hard, and I think because I had followed the comic books and saw they'd done so much of a better job in the comic books with just the script and how it happened, and I'm like, this is garbage. You know what I mean? I mean, in the comic book, they took it to another planet, which I'm assuming that's also what happened in this latest movie. They're on another world. I don't know how they got stranded, but what it was they had it as a colony. In the comic book, they had a colony world where they raised cattle. And it was just way out, and pretty much that was just a whole almost cowboy thing, but they had the corporation there. And the predators came by, shot out the friggin' pods with the aliens in them. They hatched the xenomorphs, and they went and hunted them. And so you ended up having the humans fighting together to kill the aliens on this farm community. And then one of the head of security was a Japanese woman who was into the warrior culture of Japan, Bushido and everything. And that kind of merged well with the predator culture.
Yeah.
And
cool.
and they ended up fighting back to back. And, at the end of it, the predators all came and they left and they marked her with the predator symbol, like in the middle of her forehead.
Book
and it was pretty
talking?
Cool. The comic book, graphic novel.
In any kind of written like that, in my opinion, it's better because you can get like what the people are thinking and like way more story stuff that doesn't have to have a character saying it. I can't stand that aspect of movies. Whenever I've seen a book, or I guess read a book, and then watch the movie is like some fast forward idiot version where like the characters exist, but then they're saying everything. Like, let's go to the thing because that's important because of this. And remember how one time when we both experienced this, but let's remember it because we have to say it to the audience. Like that kind of stuff gets really annoying in movies. Now I'm oblivious to it because I never read the books or whatever. But yeah, that sounds way cooler than. And the only reason I like the Predator Alien one is because of the like Predator Alien mixing together, and then whatever it was, a pyramid under the ice or something. Like I dig all that. That's like neat science fiction. And because I didn't have any like roots in it, like it was easy enough for me to, I could forgive everything because I didn't know any, I wasn't weighing it against anything. But I can see how it would be not that great. It wasn't the best movie ever. I just like the concept of it. And like I said, I realized that the Predators are going to kind of go all over. And I don't really love the Alien movies, but I like how Predator and Alien mix together. I don't know if I know the story about that. Like, I don't think they're owned by the same people, right? So I think it's cool that two, whatever that's called, like franchises decided to smash into each other and basically go
collaboration.
To war. Well, they kind of went to war on screen, though, really. I guess in some of them they're friends.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the universes collaboration. I think it's great. I think it's great if they do a good job of it, but some of it is like you said, they've dumbed it down to the point, and when they put it in the movies, it's like, oh my god, like you didn't have to do that. Trust me, it's not that deep. It wasn't Shakespeare. You could figure it out. I didn't have to realize
like they're
what
playing
it meant.
to the people who are like, we got to make it the movie appeal to people who don't want to be here. Like if I was making a movie, I'd be like, don't show up at this movie if you don't want to be here, because this movie's going to get way into like the martial side of the Predator, and if somebody can't handle that, then go watch a lighter movie somewhere. But yeah, I could see where that would be more interesting.
And I think that'd be even a bigger draw, because now you all of a sudden told people, yeah, you don't deserve to see this movie if you're not really into it. So just stay at home. And nothing makes people want to come out to see things when you go, yeah, this is not for you.
Now I'm kind of stoked because nowadays I think that it costs less. At least you can do cooler stuff for less money. So you can, make a movie that's still cool and be like the way you want it to be, appealing to the audience you want, not the whole audience. Where back in the day, if you spend millions of dollars, I'm sure some of that was somewhere in there. You paid a lot of money to have somebody go, nope, that's too weird. Edit that out of there. Like bring it back to center. Like it's got to appeal to everybody. You got to make your money back. And that can really tie a movie down sometimes.
Yeah, when they just want to have like they want everyone to watch the movie, and it's like, yeah, bro, that's not going to happen. They want to appeal for everyone. What about the 12-year-olds that are going to watch? I need moms to be into it too.
Right.
It's like, what? What about seniors? There's no jokes in there. Throw in a couple of jokes from Don Rickles. We need a callback. It's like, no.
Well, we got a bunch of people watching. We're about an hour in. I guess I could go dig into the actual questions that come in. It's been a while. I have to like dust off the box that I pull out of the database here. Scroll all the way back down to the bottom. But we've got the scroll down there. It is indeed legal for you to ask questions if you want. You may not know it because we've just been like rambling, but we actually know everything about all guns. So if you just ask us a question, we can solve whatever questions you might have had over the years. As evidenced by the thousands of questions answered. We actually have not had one come in since a couple of months. So I'm wondering if the website's down. I should probably, that might be an indication to go look if the website's down. I'll go
All
take a
right.
look at that at some point.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh no, I was talking to a friend of mine. He was down in Florida, and he was hanging out with the guys from Tactical Light Firearms, who is also whom I know through Kevin Dixie Training Learns. And they were like, you know, he said, you always say you want to work together, dude. They're willing to work with you. Just call them up. They want to make something. So I'm trying to think of what do I want them to make, because they make AR-15s, they make AR pistols, they do really cool work over there. They even have a 45 ACP AR that's intricately suppressed called the Thumper. Really cool if you live in a free state and want to check it out. But I was like, yeah, I want to do something Jersey legal that will be, hey, that's pretty cool. I want to check that out. But I don't think I want to go through all the trouble of making it an AOW. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like one part of me wants it, because he's willing to make it for me and give it to us. And one part wants me to go, yeah, just get a regular AR, 16-inch barrel, and just do it in a really cool color and have cool controls on it. Maybe make it lightweight so it can appeal to more people, and leave it at that. Don't go, brace this, that, whatever, and make
Well,
it in a cool color.
that's what I was going to say. The color is the thing because your color is blue, and that makes it kind of look like a blue gun. But
Yeah,
if you did it in accents or whatever, a white gun, for example, with the logo, so that it doesn't look like a blue gun with a logo on it. It doesn't have to be all blue. It could be a totally white stormtrooper looking type of thing, but then have blue for blue stuff, and then have the full 3-color logo all over. But anyway, what I was going to say is, even if you made it an SBR, or at least a cool looking, you have to do like the hurdles to make it comply to be a short firearm.
yeah,
If you made one of those and let it have it be at the store, like We Shoot, or at oh man, why can't I ever think of the first one?
Recoil. Oh, Gunfire.
Gun for Hire. I don't know, for whatever reason I can't think of it. I can always picture them and where it is even, so I drew the thing. But anyway, if you left it at one of those spots, because then they can have it up on the wall, maybe even as a rental, kind of depends on what you want to do with it. But then it would be there being this gun that looks cool, and then people go, what's that? Oh, it's an opportunity to talk about, every second, our gun, QA3, if I can get my numbers together here. And then when you're there, obviously, you pull it off the wall, you use it all you want, but be a little less hassle because you wouldn't have to deal with it. And then it would be sort of like an advertising. And then you could say, and I'd go with the 3 ranges. So if you want to make 3 of them,
Yeah, I was looking because I had one they call Candy. I know I had it on. I'm looking for it on my YouTube page. It was an AR. I went to a shoot and one of the guys had it, and it's kind of like purple, glittery purple. But as you move the firearm in the sunlight, you can watch the color change.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the flake.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's got the metallic flake, and you're moving it around. And it's kind of like the color of an oil slick on water. It changes as you change angles. Well, they can do that. They can do that because when I was hanging out with the guys from Tactical Life at the Great American Outdoor Show, they had a Glock slide like that, and that was freaking cool. I really like those guys. They are gun guys to the freaking core, and they just do what they do, and they sit around and think of really cool guns to make, and they're good people. I mean, I've trained with them, I've hung out with them, both in Atlanta and St. Louis, and and Pennsylvania and Harrisburg. Oh, we haven't been on the show since they created that fake Glock panic, have we? October 20th was when they put word out that the Glock models weren't being made. They were pulling them off in the market and putting out the new V series. I don't think we've talked about it, have we? Or did we talk about it last time because it just happened?
I don't think we did, because I think it, like you say, just kind of fell between doing other things.
So,
Or not doing shows, I guess I should say.
yes, yeah. Because it's been frustrating me, and I've wanted to talk about it to somebody. I was actually going to do a live, and I may still do it. It's a little frustrating to watch people pretend that the Glocks are now rare because you're not going to be able to buy the ones with this particular part. I'm like, no, no, that's not how it's going to work. I mean, if you want to be a guy that collects Glocks, I think that's a great place to start. Don't do it because you think, you know what I mean, that it's going to be worth money. Like someone posted, no, if you're going to drop $500 on something worth money, buy gold or silver. That's going to appreciate a lot better. It's more of an investment than purchasing Glocks right now. But they've created a false market. They've raised the prices up on freaking even used Glocks to a point it's ridiculous. And I'm like, no, this is not some kind of thing you really need to jump on right now. But people gonna people. I just felt it was funny that on October 19th, a Glock was the Honda Civic or handguns. Nothing is special about them, but somehow by the evening of October 20th, you need to snatch one of these up because they're collectible. They made 20 million of them. You're okay. They made more Glocks than they made Mosin Nagants.
Yeah, I guess like if you're flush with money, you got nothing else to do, you're looking for an investment that's super long term. Yeah, go buy a Glock nobody's ever touched before, because you can buy one that no one's ever touched before. At some point, the ones that are at the stores will disappear, and then you won't technically be able to buy one that, like, you know, this came from a store raw or whatever you want to say. But I mean, like, I think what you're getting at is everybody who bought one of those just for investment, or not necessarily buying for investment, but I mean, I can't even tell you. I know at least 6 people who must own a couple of Glocks each that are like, I bought this one because I was going to do something, but then they came out with a new thing and I didn't want to do it, and then I had to buy the thing, blah, blah, blah. So it just ended up sitting there, and it's going to be a project gun. Like, it's the chassis for a project gun. They just haven't figured out what the project is yet, right? And so I know people that have more than one of those. So when Glock comes out with the new Z thing and they decide to go with that or whatever reason, what's going to happen is those people are going to sell those. Sure, they're not from the store, never been touched, but they're essentially the same thing as being from the store, never been touched, because, you know, I just described. So, like you're saying, I think, is that those things are going to be around for freaking decades, and there's so many of them. I guess I can't even think about how many generations from now people will still be able to not be all that excited when they pull out a brand new Glock or whatever. And I think that gets to, again, like, think of how big a Glock is. Like, a Glock box is about the size of a thick paper, thick hardcover book. So, you know, like less than a shirt folded up, like that can be put just about almost anywhere in a home, completely forgot about for generations. And whenever it gets picked up and pulled out, it's going to be good to go. I mean, not just a Glock, any guns like that. So, you know, I think that they're not unique or anything. I just think the physics of them, physically, they're going to be around for a long, long time in the condition you're talking about. It's hardly rare. But, I mean, I can understand why somebody would say it technically, but just because you're right doesn't mean you should be saying it. You know what I mean? It needs to be said or anything. Like, it's definitely not urgent. Certainly not whatever, like you say, it's probably not effective, like the whole thing of like, you're looking for something to say, and this is the topic of the day, so I'm going to say something about this, you know. topic, not a topic that needed to be said, but they were looking for a topic.
Yeah, well, I've heard things like you got to snatch them up, and I'm like, snatch them up what? Or this new generation, they're not going to be the dependable Glocks that we know that have been issued to police and militaries around the world. And I'm like, stop. You think Glock forgot how to make guns? Like,
Parts are different. They are going to be technically different, but like you think that they like went to zero and said, let's rebuild the whole thing, or did they fiddle with like a section on it? No, I'm not saying, I don't know. Maybe they did screw it up. Maybe by putting some weird spring in there, it's going to make it screwy. I think, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get into like our opinions on that, but that was dumb. Like, I don't know why they did that. In the past, when it was Glock, the dude, he either intentionally or his people, because there's no way to know, you know, acted differently when the company was accused of, or the brunt of, or whatever you want to say, like, you know, in the focus or in the headlights of legal stuff. They've done
mhm.
really neat stuff in the past, or like, depending on who you talk to, haters will say they accidentally, you know, were in the right place at the right time and just happened to thwart bad stuff happening to them. And then the people that appreciate them would say, you know, they're strategically thinking, and they pulled like the, what do they call, like a bullfighter, you know, they shook the red flag and got the stupid politicians to run at them, and knew they were playing 4D chess or whatever, like they had them in their pockets. So it depends on how you want to look at it, but Glock has definitely done some interesting legal kind of stuff. But this is the opposite. This is conceding. This is the kind of stuff that, it's not quite Springfield level stuff. It's Hillary Hole stuff, though. I would say it's Hillary Hole level. There was no need for a Hillary Hole. It was just politicians that came up with that shit. And then Smith & Wesson was like, oh, we sell locks, so it sounds like a great idea. Nobody will care. Guess what? People cared. And some of us are still remembering that shit. So I think that's kind of move, personally. I don't see the need for it.
I see why they did what they did, because it's not just California that was suing them, it's New Jersey that was suing them, and 12 other states were lining up for lawsuits too. So it was going to be 14 different lawsuits that they were going to win, or you could just change the friggin' design. And I think that's what they did. It's like, because that 12 lawsuit money, they're not going to get that back. So they were like, okay. And so, like, did they concede? Sure, if you want to put it that way. I figured they survived, because they could go, you know what? Screw it. We just won't make them in America anymore. And screw those 1,000 people that live in Smyrna, in Georgia. I mean, well, how hard should they fight? And who's going to support them? Because again, October 19th, Glock is mid and doesn't put out anything new, and it's the same old, same old. You should go and look at this company, this company, this company, and this company. And then the next day, Glock sold out. Well, hell, you're not buying them. That's how Glock makes money. What should they do? Fight a legal battle, lose money, go out of business? Why?
Yeah, good point. And
it's not one. If it was just one lawsuit, I get where you're coming from. But yeah, it was 14
well,
lawsuits.
and if it was like Glock America's Gun, like everybody couldn't get enough Glocks, everybody couldn't care, would always be talking about what's next, they'd probably act a little different because they have a way bigger market, obviously, or something. So
yeah,
I think that's a great point too. Like, yeah, what do you expect them to be the champ when they were the champions in the past? Like I say, whether it was intentional or not, they definitely were some of the most successful they've ever been, had the most money, the most recognition, biggest clout. So they were able to punch at a different level. Today, they're like, old Rocky. Like, he used to know how to punch, but he ain't old, he's old Rocky now. He ain't the guy who used to. He ain't the guy who punched. He's the guy who used to punch. I don't know how to say that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so here's an actual question. So we were telling people to ask questions or whatever. This one came from Woods back in the day off the database. We ignored it, I guess, or missed it back in the day. But the question is what age should a good 2A dad teach a kid to shoot? Well, first off, you're sexist, because a good 2A mom can also teach a kid to shoot. But regardless, what should a good 2A parent teach a kid to shoot? Or at what age? No, we know everything. So what age?
Mm.
I'm going to say
Well,
some age that's younger than people think, because
mhm.
teach a kid to shoot isn't the same as let a kid go out in the backyard shooting. So I think a
Yep.
kid should be taught to shoot, probably with like, do we count Nerf guns and stuff? But like
Yep.
very
That's what
young
I'm gonna
age,
do.
so that they'd know forever what that's all about when they see it in movies and stuff. And then maybe have them set up like a little thing of blocks that, oh, look, I'm set up a thing of blocks and I'm happy with it. And then shoot it and go, oh, look, I knocked my blocks over. There's consequences to shooting when you're a baby, right? Like something like that. I'm guessing if everybody did that, then every little baby would know there's consequences to a gun. And then they grow up knowing they don't need to knock everybody's blocks over. Boom. World peace.
Yeah, the same. I mean, I'm talking, 5 years old, teach them to keep the finger off the trigger kind of thing, or don't point, the whatever Nerf gun at somebody. However, the frig you need to teach your kid how to point a firearm at somebody, or at least they can transfer it to knowing the difference between a toy and something that's not when they get to that age, because it's not the first time they actually touched or saw it. So yeah, I'm talking single digits to introduce them to the safety aspect and that this can be fun aspect. And as they get older, the responsibility involved aspect of it, when they're in the double digits, when they're 10, 11, 12, having poppet stuff. If you're one of those people that can get into hunting, you can also use that as a thing, again, in their early teens or preteens.
Well, and
And get
then
them
with
into that.
hunting, that kind of stuff, even going shooting, right? Like that, if like you're a
Yeah,
competitive shooter, you just like to go marksman shoot or something, or like maybe take classes or
all of
whatever
it.
it is. Like you can have a kid sitting there as a baby watching all that way before they
Hmm.
can ever do any of that. And now it's normalized and they understand it. I'm assuming that's how I got to where I'm at. Like I would probably going to gun shows before I knew what a gun was, I'm assuming, because I don't know what all that stuff people are concerned about. It seems silly to me. But anyway, I think I'm agreeing with you that, right, they don't need to be waiting until they're like old enough to quit
Yeah,
fidgeting,
they don't.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, they don't have to wait until they're 18 years old to touch a firearm for the first time. No, you can introduce them. By the time they're 18, they could be nationally ranked. They
That's a
can be
great point.
nationally ranked shooters. Yeah.
There's people that are going to wait to introduce their kids to guns while some other kid down the street is, like you're saying, getting ranked and thinking about their college scholarship with guns or going to the Olympics and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But then I think
That.
the general answer, though, for the person is just the real question there is, what age? I don't think there is an age, right? It's whenever your kid's responsible enough that you can probably leave them with a plate of cookies and they're not going to eat them or whatever tests kids do. I'm used to dogs, so, some tests that let you know that the kid's responsible, that she's not gonna do something irrational, I guess. And then
Hmm.
I mean, I don't even know. I guess I just kept bugging them whenever they were going shooting on the weekends. Can I go shooting? Can I go shooting? And until I got to go shooting also. I don't really remember whatever I had to prove or do or something. But I guess what I was going to say is, since we're talking about in general, what age do you start a kid to shoot? And I brought up the Nerf guns right away. And Domo was saying what age earlier. He said what age as early as the good 2A parent deems possible with age appropriate material, and then followed up with those Cricket 22s, which are a small, like smaller
Hmm.
frame gun, like a 2/3 size gun, are small, so about 8 maybe, like meaning 8 years old. But then said I didn't think about Nerf guns, so preschool with that Eddie the Eagle stuff from NRA, if it's Nerf guns. So then my question is, Nerf guns are, we all know they shoot like a little foam dart, usually with springs, sometimes with some other projectile or air or something. but they're shooting a little dart that maybe could poke somebody in the eye, but they're kind of designed to not do that. And they're not going to really hurt furniture and stuff, so people can technically play with them inside and outside. They're rugged enough to still be able to use in a yard or something. But you're not always shooting those at people. You kind of always are, but sometimes you're not. Like sometimes you're knocking over blocks or something with them, or they're not really accurate, so I don't think anybody's shooting targets with them. But squirt guns is what I was going to get at. Because there's a lot of people out there that are like, you never point guns at anybody. You never point guns at anybody. And I'm pretty sure I grew up my entire life pointing guns at each other, shooting each other with squirt
100%.
guns. Shooting each other with squirt guns when we're in front of people, like our parents. And we didn't really have Nerf guns. That wasn't a thing back when I grew up. So I don't know what that world is like. Those things they didn't exist when we were little kids. And then nowadays they're kind of different because you can outrun a Nerf gun. You can be out of range of a Nerf gun. Squirt guns a little bit different sometimes, but then and then the cap guns and stuff, we would shoot each other with no consequence because no cap guns. But then what I was going to get at is then whenever parents weren't around, we were shooting each other with BB guns constantly. So because we all knew the deal, like we all knew how to do that safely. I'm not condoning it, I guess. I'm not supposed to condone that. But the reality was that we all did that, and we all also never shot anybody, like ever. So we didn't get anything real. So I don't think I think it's BS, the whole Roadrunner coyote thing. Like, oh, if they see it, then they're going to do it. Like, if that was the case, then literally people would be doing all kinds of dumb things. Because cartoons used to be really violent back in the day. And I just don't think that. I mean, maybe I'm blind to it. Maybe that was the problem, and that's why cartoons aren't violent anymore. But I just don't think if you see it, you do it. So I don't, or if you do it, you don't understand reality. You become irrational. So I think that running around with squirt guns doesn't create killers. It just, if it wasn't squirt guns, or here's the thing, sometimes they're not squirt guns. They're those squirt kind of rods or something, like, those are really cheap. And they're like two tubes, and you kind of can suck the water up in a pool or something, or in a river, and then squirt it back, so they're really fast. Is there really any difference between playing tag, sort of water tag or whatever you'd call it, when you're using those squirters versus a gun? Like, a gun is just a delivery agent for playing tag with water. So I think that this concept, because we've had these conversations online, and it doesn't always go one way or the other, but some people are like, you're right, you shouldn't use squirt guns to shoot at each other. And, then other people are like, what are you talking about? We all grew up shooting squirt guns at each other. And now kids are shooting Nerf darts at each other. And honestly, what are they doing on the video games? We're probably shooting at each other.
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't make them into anything bad. Just makes them, I don't know, understand. I don't know. I don't even know. Like, do you get anything out of being shot? You don't get water up your nose, I guess, on a video game.
So because I was trying to dance around that, and I should know better because I'm horrible at dancing around stuff. The parents that go, yeah, don't teach your kid to point in. Shut up. You're just putting all kinds of things on these kids. Like, you're acting as if they're so stupid. They can't figure the difference between playing with their cousin and playing with a real fight. Well, sometimes they shoot. Okay. A lot of weird things happen. But it's rare. And if you taught your child firearm safety instead of just letting them play with the thing, maybe he'd know the difference between a real gun and the toy gun. But just stop, because we have how many generations since the first guns were developed somewhere in China? Kids have been pointing things at each other and going bang. It's not some huge thing that tens of thousands of children pass away every year from picking up real guns and thinking they were toys. Not happening. Teach your kid the difference between them. Maybe if your kid's not that bright, then they don't get to pick up a gun. You know your kid. And maybe your kid isn't ready for that. Maybe your kid's not able to make that leap. Then your kid doesn't get a real gun. Quit applying shortcomings that probably don't exist, and creating, what do you call it, this straw man argument. I think that's it, right? When you create people that don't even exist.
Well, you want to fight the concept, so you create an argument you can win. I think that's what a straw man is, right? Like,
okay,
I can attack you, but I can attack this. So I don't like guns, but I can not. I don't know. I think we're right. I don't know. Maybe we're.
Yeah, you're making up an entire scenario that you win, but it never took place. Congratulations. You know, your
So it's a
your
what
unicorn
if
is the
for something
fastest.
that never actually happens.
Yeah, your unicorn is the fastest unicorn in the unicorn race. Yeah, none of that exists, bro. What are you talking about? Because we damn sure we didn't have Nerf. We didn't even have airsoft. What we had was Red Ryder BB guns and Crossmans.
And those, at
And
the very end of me being a kid, like those were, there was like what was that? The Red Rider, which was kind of half dumb, but it, right when we were done being kids, they kind of started coming out with cooler looking BB guns. And then airsoft wasn't right. It was pretty quick behind that. But there's been this and that I think when Foss brings up airsoft and paintball, that's two different things. They're similar, but the big difference is paintball is a gun that can shoot. It started being a paintball marker, so it was like a kind of a contraption that had a big air tank that people would walk around marking trees or cows or things, like literally to throw paint. So they just took that and said, hey, this is fun, let's play with it. But it's a big contraption that kind of looks like a fire extinguisher mixed with a gun, where airsoft almost always looks exactly like a gun. Like they go out of their way to make them look exactly like guns, and then as a last minute thought, they'll put like an orange thing on it or something sometimes. But so I think that's two different things. Like paintball, it's 100% like it's shooting each other. Like that's what it is. So now do you say, where do you put paintball in there? How do you deal with paintball being a thing if pointing a gun and shooting at somebody is going to be an issue? Then how do you deal with paintball? Then there's definitely airsoft like that too. Like people play airsoft the same way, where they dress up and shoot at each other. And again, that doesn't create anything other than healthier people than being, it's got to be healthier than video games, except for when you break an arm or something or twist an ankle. But those are two good points, that airsoft is something where you let a kid play airsoft and now they're running around with something that looks almost exactly like a gun. Now, when we were kids, our guns looked pretty close. I think most people would have thought they were guns, even if we know they didn't look like guns, but they look close enough to a gun. And if they were shooting, well, we all know about the Uzi, but if the water guns pretty much looked like guns up until the Super Soakers. But I mean, like I say, airsoft and some of that stuff like immediately started looking like guns. I just think back in our days, everybody just assumed a kid was not walking around with a gun, so nobody ever had any issue with that. Like I don't remember anybody ever caring that. I used to walk around with guns all the time. We'd play guns, and nobody ever cared that my grandma was carrying around, or with a little kid with guns. They just thought it was some weird kid that liked guns. No different than a kid carrying around a teddy bear or something.
yeah,
Here.
yeah, just stop it. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you, dude. They've made a lot of things out of nothing. They just want to keep it alive. What the hell were we talking about? We talk one of those, the suicide numbers when they're talking about gun control. And I'm like, well, it's disingenuous because usually the organizations that are putting out, gun death numbers or gun violence numbers aren't doing it because they want to keep people safe. That's an anti-gun talking point that they're pushing, and they're using that as the excuse. They don't really care. Again, the organizations, they're individuals that I'm sure care, but it's the organizations that are pushing an agenda. So when they're using,
well, you
those
can tell
numbers,
that because they don't change over time at all, and they haven't been effective. So if their intention was to be effective with suicides, since that's the biggest chunk of gun deaths, and they haven't done anything to address it or reposition or focus and refocus, like anything. They don't even research it. The most they'll research it is to try to counter our suggestion that why don't you care about the largest number of gun deaths, which is suicide. But they'll also, I guess they should say, they probably research it enough to figure out that the people dying from guns in suicide are people who are familiar with guns. Therefore, they're not the highest on the priority list of people who hate guns. They probably think of it as a run down yourself type of situation. And, if we're going to try to save people, it's going to be the people who are innocent of guns, not the people who brought the guns into the scene in the first place. And they probably justify that position based on, right? Like that, like you're the one who brought the dangerous thing around. So if you're getting hurt from it, that's on you. Now let's concentrate on the people that are collateral damage. I mean, I can understand that, but it's what's that called? I don't know the name of, like, just making up a fake logic in your head so that you feel better. But the real logic would be, let's address the people that are dying. Like, let's address the actual people that are dying. Since you're standing on those numbers, that's how people call them coffin surfers, right? Because they'll stand on all those numbers and suggest that the ones they're pointing at, the children, are, indicative of all the numbers, when in reality they're standing on the suicides of adults and then pointing at children. Just disingenuous, but it's understandable how they do the mental gymnastics on that. So I don't know how we got into this a little bit, or you can kind of go about it. But since we went this way, I guess I should say I'm not averse to it, because I don't know if you watched. I watched it while it was live, and I think it was just me and Clover watching it live. They had Walk Talk America goes live every once in a while on a Thursday. They just happened to be able to catch it, and I forgot who the guy was. He was some publisher who was a Deadhead, so he's cool. But listened to the Grateful Dead when he was a kid. Probably the same years I was listening. He was on the East Coast. But anyway, so he grew up and eventually got a gig. Oh, the Wolf of Wall Street movie? He was in that whole situation as one of the people selling those penny stocks or whatever. And he said his description, they didn't spend a lot of time talking about it, but he said that, they made a lot of money, and they thought, because they were not aware, they were not stockbrokers, they were taken off the street and given the credentials necessary to do the job. And then when it all crashed, they kind of realized that they got a perspective on where they were. But he said that they all thought that they were doing legitimate stuff. They just happened to be really, really good at it, and that it was normal to make a bunch of money. And because they were young kids making a bunch of money, they were all being wild and spending it in dumb ways. So we didn't really have much to get, much to save from it after it was all over. But anyway, that's how he kind of started with all of that. And through his financial experience, he got into something which got him into guns. And then he's into guns, and then he's into publishing, and now he's a publisher of gun magazines. And I forget how something like recently the company merged with a marketing company, and now it's a marketing company and a publishing company, where they kind of sister companies or co-companies or something like this. And that's the person that Walk Talk America is interviewing. And they were talking about some stuff. So the first thing, when they were kind of talking about his origin story and how they were talking to him and stuff, in his life or his work experience like that, I was asking him, because I forget what all, I think it's a bunch of magazines that I've heard of, and about half that I've heard of and half that I haven't heard of, but they're all gun magazines. But just a lot of different ones, like hunting ones and competition shooting ones and concealed carry, of course. But nothing 2A, nothing like specifically focused on activism or rights or politics or that kind of thing specifically. And I said something like, the question was to that guy, it's off topic, probably, I don't care. So I'm the only one watching anyway. But I said something like, how come we don't have a monthly publication devoted to 2A? Is it because it wouldn't sell, like nobody would want it, or because nobody's doing it, or something like that? And basically I was asking him, like, is it because nobody's pushing it out there and nobody knows if it would sell, or if somebody's tried or something and we just know it would never sell, or maybe everybody just assumes it would never sell. Anyway, he said there is none, and that it couldn't happen. I think he essentially said, was thinking that people just aren't interested enough. And then, his biggest issue was that he said something, because he thought I was talking about lawsuits maybe, or else maybe that's where his mind went. But he's like, there's just not enough stuff to talk about to make a full issue. And I was like, just, fuming. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, seriously, like, hold me back. Like, watch, or hold my beer. Like, give me, just tell me how many pages and I'll fill it. Like, it doesn't matter how ambitious you think or over ambitious. Like, I can definitely fill it with history, what we've got coming up and what's happening now. Please. Like, there's so many things, like an organization of the month right there, a couple of 10 pages or something.
That's
There's so many things. Come on. Individuals, like history, like, come on. There's so many things. And then that would put it into paper. I'm appreciating, now that I'm getting old, or maybe now that I've just seen what people have not done with the internet. Because, for a while there, I was really optimistic on what could be done with the internet. And at some point, you got to realize that people are just not going to do cool stuff with it, or the cool stuff that they could have done, because the time frame is over. There's, I'm not putting out that there ain't cool stuff to be done. It's a great place to be. It's an awesome potential. But, some of the coolest stuff we could have done when it was kind of fresh and raw and we had the chance, we didn't get done. But anyway, that I'm seeing the potential of something that's physical. And I guess, one of the other things is every single time, if I brought up on the screen here, piss everybody off, every single time I open up my email, which is every day, 5 or 10 more videos being pulled. Like, I'm surprised. I got to go look. I used to have 7,000 videos on YouTube. I bet you have like 3,000 at this point, because every single day they're pulling videos. Just anything that has anything to do with guns, which is everything on my channel. So just all my stuff. And you think I can remember what videos they're taking down? Like, except for the email telling me the video's taken down, it doesn't link to anything anymore. So all I have is the title. Like, I don't remember any of these videos. It was neat to have had 7,000 videos.
wow.
Topics at one point. You know what I mean? So anyway,
Yeah,
now that's happening. So now that's happening, it's like, actually, I think it was even more. I might be thinking of the Gear channel. I'd have to go look, because I did write it down back in the day. At one point, whenever they made us remove a bunch of channels, I took a bunch of screenshots of like the peak of where we were at. I used to have more subs too. I definitely lose subs, because I think it was anyway. But the idea of having it printed. And then I've been going back and buying some books and some magazines and stuff that are just pieces of history, or like, for some reason, I think it's neat to own the magazine where some coin was, or phrase was coined, whatever our author came up with it. I got the article where it started. I don't know, just for some future reference, I'll be able to connect some dots. I'll have that moment where I'm looking at the wall with all the strings between all the different things. I'll be like, look, I found it. There are all these different magazines, and this is how it all happened. But anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is, I don't even know what I'm getting at. Oh, that having this stuff in hard copies is still valuable. And for a long time there, I was like I would rage against the writers and stuff. But again, now that I've been working on Substack, I kind of took my email bullshit and moved it. I don't try to send out emails anymore. Instead, I just post stuff on Substack, which is kind of like a blog that gets emailed to people that want to read stuff in email. So that's sort of become like a really good, I don't know, like ways to accomplish both things. But what that's also done is getting me get over to writing more, which I like to do, because it's different than doing blogs or doing video stuff like this. And the people who read are different people. They're kind of like hanging out with Dr. Yamane. Imagine if you were hanging out with a bunch of people like him. It's just different. With a bunch of people on YouTube who jump to conclusions all the damn time, and half the time they're wrong. Like, every time they disagree with me, they're wrong. It's annoying. But the writers, they're just a little bit more, I guess, maybe neutral, or at least they don't jump to getting in fights because of the nature of the platforms or what. So anyway, I'm getting to see the appeal of why the industry caters to writers so much, and always has. And, I've just been ignoring it or not paying attention to the appeal that those writers, or I guess the people that those writers appeal to. So it's a way to say it. Anyway, there's a lot of people out there that read still.
Well, let's go ahead and say this. It takes somebody special to come up with a way to have people pay attention to Pro Second Amendment magazine. All right, hold on. I'm putting it together in my head how I've been into bodybuilding for my entire life, right? As a sport, as a sport, knowing the dudes, reading the workout routines, doing the workout routines in the 80s and the 90s when I thought I could look like Ronnie Coleman. And I liked the sport. But then I watched other parts of bodybuilding. They came out with Figure for women's bodybuilding, because they were like, the women are getting too big. So we have kind of like Figure. So they don't have to be as in shape. Well, the figure ladies just became this jacked, this female bodybuilders, just slightly smaller. And then they were like, "Oh, we'll do bikini." Well, let's just figure chicks without in high heels and bikinis. I mean, it's still jack chicks, and all of them are bigger than the regular girl. When it comes to a Second Amendment magazine, I think it would eventually just turn into another gun mag, and I think
Oh yeah.
that's where maybe they see that no matter how you start it, this is where it's got to end up if it's going to survive.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that I'd like to think that it could be done in a cool way, but
Hmm.
no one's going to give me the ability to, the time to do it. But you're right, because most people are going to look at it like a book report, and like, here's, because it's what it's always been. Like, here's a
Hmm.
bunch of book reports, and you need to have the book reports so that people can know the data, but you don't have to only have the book reports. And that's where, like I say, one of the things I was trying to say to the guy, and I don't think it was coming across because we weren't really having a conversation. He's just reading my blog post or my comments,
Hmm.
right? But one of the things that I think that is untapped with magazines is, and that they own that we don't have on the internet, is that they're sending that magazine out every month. And just think about the potential there. Like, I was just watching the Netflix show, like the history of Netflix or Blockbuster or something. When they started sending those DVDs, that was just somebody came up with the idea at a bar. They went and grabbed a CD out of the drawer, just a blank CD, put it in an envelope from Hallmark, sent it to themselves, and the next day when it showed up at the office unbroken, they decided to try the company, that like maybe the post office will work for this, and that'll eliminate the whole thing. And now we've got Amazon delivering stuff, right? Again, like they're thinking small when they're going to send something to the person's house every month, and they're just sending the magazine. Like, there's so much more that can be accomplished in 2025, without getting way into it. I'm just thinking, like, there's just a lot to be done, a lot of potential there. So even if it's something like sending something out like the DVDs that gets returned, and now you start a whole, anyway, there's so many ways that you can incorporate a different type of relationship with the reader and appreciation for the printed type when you're sending something out every month. Just thinking, like, I was doing bingo cards. When people would buy stuff at the store, I would send them out a bingo card. And then on Wednesdays when we'd have the game night, we would just, I could pull bingo cards out. Now there's like this extra layer of stuff going on for people that had participated that way. So I don't know, we have so much stuff going on. I keep thinking of a scoreboard, like when I go to Vegas, the one casino that Elvis used to go to. I don't know what it's even called anymore. It used to be the Hilton. I think it's something else now. But it's one of the biggest sports books in Vegas, and it's just right next to this buffet I like to go to. So that's why I've seen it. I don't really know about sports, but I'd have to walk past it all the time, going to the parking lot, and it's huge, right? Like, I'm pretty sure some of the games are repeated on it, unless it's really busy day. But if you walk past it, it will be whatever that game is at the beginning of Miami Vice. Like, there'll be horse racing, there'll be all the different sports I know, and then all these weird sports I've never seen before. And then probably monkeys fighting, you know what I mean? Like, just people fighting underneath the bridge with the bottles or something. Like, there's all these things that people are betting on. And, I don't know, like, probably somebody's betting on a bunch of that, but the bookies or something, but everybody else is just watching whatever it is they're worried about, right? But it's all there available to everybody. And that's where, we don't have that. We kind of have it with HeyJackass.com. I think it's .com. If you want to see Chicago specifically, like, that person really did a great job of does a great job of putting the statistics for the violence in Chicago visually into a website so that it can be interpreted with kind of humor, so that it's, not necessarily just data. It's sort of entertaining to the extent that, like, if you've got to understand the data, at least it's palatable. But without even making it funny or whatever, you could just make it appealing, useful, and in having a thing that goes out every month. Oh man, like I said, I just think they're losing a lot of. They're not thinking of the big picture when they're just sending out a magazine anymore. Remember when we used to get magazines back in the day when they were super popular and they were competing with each other? there'd be like a record
Mhm.
in there. I remember getting a CD in a magazine, not a real hard CD, but
Yep.
like a piece of plastic that you put into a CD player and it still worked like a CD. But anyway, it's stuff, like every once in a while there'd be like a piece of plastic holding your magazine in, and then there'd be other stuff in there. And that's where, like I say, if they've got the subscription thing going, and they've got that physical thing going where they're physically getting stuff out to people. Anyway, that was one of the things that I thought was frustrating but interesting to hear at the beginning of that article. And then there was something else I was going to ask you or bring up, I guess, about the walk the talk conversation. You didn't see it, I'm guessing. All right, I think I asked.
No, I saw they had a female on a while ago, and I was going to catch it. It just sucks because I should be able to play them, while I'm in my office at work, but I get caught up in stuff.
No, that's
Don't
kind of
get
tough
to it.
because they're not like a story, but yeah, you can if they're fragmented, you kind of lose track of what they're talking about sometimes. New York Outcast was saying teachers are saying nearly every kid wants to be an influencer now. The internet will probably get flooded. What's the next new thing? That's a great point. I mean, there can only be so many people doing that kind of stuff, and there's X amount of places where you can do it, and there's going to be people that put their hat in the ring, and the people that succeed at it. So I don't know if that's sort of the professional sports, like every kid wanted to be, not every kid, but a whole bunch of kids wanted to be in football or baseball or whatever, and that's all they did all summer long until whatever the realization was. And then it seemed like, we were all riding bikes or doing something else. So like all of a sudden these kids are back playing whatever games we were playing because they figured out they weren't going to be a baseball player or whatever. I'm guessing it's like that. But on the other hand, maybe it will just be a different internet where instead of one person telling 15,000 people what it's like to eat this or go there or do this or use this thing, 15,000 people figure out a way to have 15,000 people just, I don't know, somehow bounce each other or, bounce the stuff off each other or something, so that'll be more interesting. Because I don't really think it's long term what we've got going on right now. It certainly wasn't building to this. This is just sort of the way it is right now with
what the influencer thing.
Yeah, the whole there's some people, I don't know, I'm watching a girl lately who's on the YouTube. She makes millions of dollars, not even kidding, makes millions of dollars. She's got 32 different 16 or 30 different jobs, and she'll talk about them all the time on the YouTube channel. And one of the jobs is talking about jobs on the YouTube channel because that pays thousands and thousands of dollars a month. So right now, people are going to YouTube to go, oh, I need a side hustle or I need a second job. And of all the things you can do on YouTube, that pays the most. So those are the people that are talking about, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a snake eating its tail thing. They're talking about it, and they're getting paid to talk about it. But because we're talking about the same thing, I have to talk about them. But anyway, so that's a phenomenon that, it's not like the internet was built for that, and it's not like it'll be rest on that for the rest of the time. It's just sort of a thing that's happening, and some people are making a killing while it's happening. Like her, she's making millions, but she's making millions on a lot of different things. She's making hundreds of thousands on this right now, but as soon as it burns out or fizzles out, she'll be on to the next thing. So if that's what you're asking,
move to the next thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure what the next thing will be. I'd like to think holograms at some point. Come on, I've got some augmented reality glasses now. So they're glasses, but they've got a monitor, a screen between you and the world. So you're looking at the world, and it's not like a fake world like Pokemon or something. You're just looking at the world through these glasses. But let's say you're going to let's say I'm flying my drone around, and if I looked up, it would tell me if I'm looking at airspace that's occupied by an airplane, because I'd see a big green dot around the airplane. It's going to augment reality, kind of like a heads up display when you see it like the Terminator or something, and you get this guy's getting a heat vision. So it's like that, you're getting extra data. You're not getting different data. It's not a fake reality or anything like these VR glasses. So anyway, I'm thinking with that stuff existing, come on, we should probably have more stuff than we got.
Understand. The head of the patent office in 1899 said everything that needs to be invented has been invented. And that was in 1899.
Yep.
You're not gonna. There's always gonna be something new, you know. And if you were a captain or in charge of a fleet of whalers in 1875, you're like, I'm in the money, bro. What, they're gonna stop making people gonna stop needing whale oil? No, we're always gonna have that. What do you mean somebody freaking struck oil in Pennsylvania? Who cares? Oh, it replaced whale oil? Yeah. Like in a decade? Yeah. So you never know what could be next. There could be something with processors that speeds all of this up, and it just everything takes a like quantum leap from what we know today until what's from 2 years from now. We never know. Um, Also, we could go backwards, right? Have an EMP and it just changes life forever. So when people go, what's next?
It's interesting.
A lot of things could be next. And some stuff is not revolutionary, it's evolutionary. It's something you're in and you just keep working on it and it gets better and you make money at it. I mean, everybody has a podcast also, but that doesn't mean you stop podcasting. The good ones go up and the bad ones fall to the wayside. Doesn't mean podcasting ended. It just means I ain't Joe Rogan.
Well, the thing is, when people talk about, there's so much stuff to talk about. I'm going to go through the comments here. I've been flashing some of them up on the screen, and we've got about 15 minutes. We got a hard stop today, so we can both go do things. But so that'll be good though, because we have to leave this once in a while with people wanting more, right? Instead of usually we completely satisfy their any question they have, and we've instructed them so well that they're in like a numb state for the rest of the week. They have they just feel like they've mastered guns for the rest of the week. And then it's a struggle for them to come up with questions, and that hurts us. So we're going to leave you wanting more so that you'll come up with questions for next week. It's difficult, but it's better in the long run. But no, that's a great question. I haven't thought of the whole like EMP. I guess since I've just discounted it, and I never discounted 9/11 or 2001. No, 2000 Y2K. Took me
Y2K, yeah.
Took me a while because I was working and I knew that Y2K could have been a thing. Like that was not a fake thing. There was just a lot of effort to solve the parts that could have been an issue, and then it wasn't. And then everyone loves to go, ha ha. So that's all that was really ever talked about. There probably were some issues, but no one ever talks about them because they were insignificant. That being said, sky is falling is bullshit most of the time, but what was I going to get at? That dang, where was I going with that? The whole EMP thing. Like, I just don't think that that's possible. Like, it is possible, I guess, somehow somebody could come up with a science fiction reality that actually does knock out all the computers. But it's just, Night of the Comet type of stuff. Like, there's going to be somebody, my computer was underneath a pile of crap in the shed, so it's still okay. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to you can't kill every computer. That's just unrealistic. So there's going to be computers. And it's not like we're so into the future, like some kind of weird Star Trek future where like we don't remember how to just grow stuff and eat it. We might not be good at it. We might be eating shitty carrots for 2 years, but then we'd all figure out how to make carrots really good and we'd have carrots. You know what I mean? Like we'd all figure it out. Like, I don't think we're so far beyond that we're like inept at everything. But that's a good question. Like, it's been a while since I've ever thought about like what could be the worst case scenario for the future. But I'm going to go back, since I'm ranting, I'm going to go back to, you got to listen. If you haven't listened to the Sean Ryan show episode where he talks to the guy who's the 4-star general of the Air Force. I just listened to it for like the third time, and it still is good. I get more and more optimistic every time I listen to it. But the future is bright. The future is awesome. There's going to be in the next 5 years, there's going to be all kinds of really interesting things that happen that make humanity less worried about each other. Like, once you don't have the scarce resources that we've had in the past, There's just less
Mhm.
and less reason to complain. There's going to be like
Mhm.
differences of opinion on like how to solve, like how do we clean up this area? But that's going to be the future. Is like how do we clean up dumps or how do we clean up toxic areas? Like realizing that bad things were done. How do we solve the remnants of them? And that'll be the art disagreements. It won't be arguments. It'll just be like, oh, I think we should do it this way to solve it 10 years faster or 6 years faster. It won't be the doom and gloom shit that we've had. But now, there's no way to know or whatever, but I would urge you to listen to that article. Essentially, it all boils down to solar panel, imagine solar farms in space, right? Like the big issue with solar panels on Earth is that hailstorms wail on them, clouds, all the stupid stuff that happens in the atmosphere because of weather. So put them in space. And what happens in space with solar panels? They just get old. Maybe a little dusty once in a while. So you put some robots on there to plug in new ones and wash them off, and you're done. You've got solar farms in space, and the Tesla technology beams all that down to Earth. And now you've got power wherever you want it. They can pull water out of the atmosphere. They can desalinate. So now once you've got power, you can have water wherever you need it. And when you got water and power, you've got food wherever you need it. So pretty close to having, the kind of stuff that Star Trek type of stuff on Earth. And we're heading in that direction. Like you can choose to believe we're not, but in reality, technology is being awesome. I was just watching a thing about graphene. So we're still discovering new materials. Like we're not done doing the stuff that people said, like you just said with the patent guy. Oh, we're done. Like for
Mhm.
people to say that we're going downhill is essentially saying we're done. We haven't got anything left to discover. Like there's no new
Yeah.
frontier. There's no new materials. Everything's doom and gloom. Who are the people that want scarce resources and want us to fight and bicker, over what's left? It's the people that want us to,
Mhm.
to to hold us apart from each other, fighting and bickering. Just don't listen to them, and then go find out about the cool new stuff that's going to happen. And yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, it's really true. I always look at stuff like this going, well, one, there's always going to be somebody screaming, the sky is falling. Like just a negative. And now that you have a way to monetize it, there's just like, I follow one YouTube channel every freaking week. It's something horrible is going to happen. And he has this shot of his face, and it's like, we're running out of food. We're running out of clean water. And I don't even watch the videos. I just look at him and laugh, going, dude, I followed you for like 8 years. None of the crap you said happened.
right,
Like I just look at his stuff and just laugh at him. I don't even hit play. I just think it's entertaining to watch Chicken Little. We're going to war with Iran. We're going to war with Russia. We're going to war with Ukraine. We're going to war in Sierra Leone. We're going to war in Sri Lanka. Wow. Like you get it wrong every time. So anyway, man, listen, people are gonna market off of negativity and they're gonna make money. And it's up to people like us to just live our freaking lives and point out the good things that are happening. Never let them get you down. Just go. We got stuff to do. Encourage people to be better versions of themselves. Come on, join me. Let's get in this fight together. They just had the election here in Jersey, and there are people wailing and gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair because they had the female win, who's a horribly anti-gun, whatever. And I'm like, well, that's what happens when over 1 million gun owners don't prioritize the Second Amendment rights because they think no one can touch them. And all right, cool. My job wasn't going to change regardless of who won. Now, come on, get in here and let's join these Second Amendment groups and write your senators and congressmen and actually vote and do work. You can't sit on your ass regardless of where you live and allow other people to go vote while you don't. Or if you live in another state and you see something's going on, like happening right now in New Jersey and Virginia, cut a check. You could write a check to a freaking out of state politician to help them in an election if you think that, the other person's anti gun. Or you can actually write a check to Second Amendment organizations in those states because we're going to have girding up lawsuits left and right. And that's what's going to happen here in Jersey. So CNJFO, Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, ANJRPC, the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs. All of us need funding, or hey, diversityshoot.com, because my mission just became trying to get another range. So we go into 2026 hosting at, where am I at now? 5 ranges. Yeah, let's pick up another range. Let's go. My mission does not change regardless of who wins the presidency, the gubernatorial race, or your mayoral race. I'm fighting this fight by getting people to join the Second Amendment struggle, regardless of their race, gender, or any other category people try to divide us into. I ain't changing. Oh, yeah, it's 5 o'clock, so I got to roll. Well, I'm not changing. You can go to diversityshoot.com, check out the website. You can visit me on Instagram at Simon Says Train. Also, I'm on Facebook at Simon Says Train, Tony Simon, and the second is for everyone. I'm on X at second for everyone. I also do a podcast called Cocked, Locked, and Unfiltered with friends of mine. I'm also on Firearms Radio Network on the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review podcast every Tuesday. And I'm blessed to be able to be here with you guys on Saturdays. And I'm about to launch. A friend of mine sent me a computer. Shout out to Ursula Williams. Sent me a computer. So I'm about to get my ish together to get the Second Amendment is for Everyone podcast back out, 2A4E podcast, because I got crap tons of interviews I got to get out. And that'll probably take us into January when I get those because I'm not waiting until January to launch a podcast. I'm just going to launch it again because we're on episode 99 anyway. So that's what I got going on. And thank you for having me on every Saturday. I really appreciate it. At least Saturdays we can make it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it seems like it's been a while. But that's cool to hear because I guess one of the things I was going to just conclude with too is that we don't have to, there's not a finish line. The goal here is the long game. When you're looking at strategies, war gaming, or game theory, I guess what they call it. There's games like baseball and football that do have an end, right? Like there's a score and a tie and that kind of crap. And then there's the long games, and those are tough because you've got countries that have dictators and whatever, like individuals that run them, either if it's a queen or somebody that just takes the power or whatever, but that's an individual. So as long as they're alive and kicking, they run the whatever political ambitions of the country, where we switch out every 4 years, and we have different elections at different levels of the government at different times. So we have this very transitional, and we just have to get used to that and learn to play that and not be confined to this like idea that there's a finish line and that we're either approaching it or we're losing or we're winning, but instead appreciate the ride, appreciate that we're still in the game, and appreciate, like, it's sad that we don't understand as a community the momentum that we're on with the 50 states with concealed carry, the 29 states with constitutional carry, and all the organizations and stuff. And that's where it's frustrating that we don't have a magazine that highlights that stuff so that it would just be common knowledge, because the more common knowledge our successes are, I think the less doom and gloom people would just have in general. But it would be very difficult for someone to suggest to someone who's really aware of what's going on that we're in a position to even think about doom and gloom. So I appreciate you jumping on with us. But yeah, we got a hard stop this week. Barbecue had a great question. I'll try to remember to bring up in a future show, but what's your most rewarding experience as an activist? That's the kind of question I might start asking activists as I interview them too. So
that's a pretty good question.
Right? Think about it.
All right, cool, man. Talk to you guys later. Thank you very much for listening to me babble.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
Oh, I think Tony's actually jumping out. So I'll just go ahead and say thanks to everybody. Wasn't sure if he was jumping or waiting for me to hit the button, but he had a hard stop today. But Patriot said, I think Tony should have a newsletter with a weekly cigar included. I agree. That's the kind of thing. And, if somebody's doing a newsletter or a magazine or whatever the level of participation is, you can definitely work with somebody who makes cigars, right? There's got to be 2A cigar people out there, companies that are adjacent to 2A or that appreciate the guns or whatever, and come up with a way to send either single cigars or like a 3-pack or like a whole box, because everybody's going to have a different interest level. And imagine, everybody's sitting down to the podcast and everybody's enjoying that cigar, or has that opportunity to listen to or enjoy that cigar while they're listening to the show, even if they're listening to it recorded. And then that's like a whole nother level of interaction. And there's lots of ways that I'm not sure why the people with the magazines haven't done anything more with that. You're being good or bad? Is that a good toy? What is she playing with? Oh, get out of here with that. Go away. Go in the room. Go away. Go to sleeping. Go on. Get. All right, we're definitely cutting it short. Mello's being gross. Mello, everybody thinks Mello's so good. She's bad. She was just officially bad. Anyway, we had a bunch of good stuff that we kind of talked about today, and I guess we will cut it off. Leaving you wanting more. We'll figure it out at some point. I just got all frustrated because now it'll only be a matter of moments before the boy figures out that she did gross things over there, and he'll be over there sniffing it or doing worse. Come here. You get in the room. Go away. Go on. Get out of here. Get out of here. All right. Horrible situation here. Horrible. It's over. It's all over. Everything I said is scam. It's all over. It's a horrible situation here. Now everything's fine. We'll try to make some sense of this chaos and be back next week. My detention's divided because if you've got pets, you understand what happens when one of them's gross. Everyone is immediately interested in whatever happened. Are you suggesting this was TMI this afternoon? This is real life. This is real life for people that are used to podcasts that are sterile and edited down. Nothing ever happens in them. That's why we go live, because this is real life. That dog's doing gross things over there. Other dog's freaking out because he wants to go sniff it and probably lick it and be gross to it. Listen to that dog. He's freaking out. All right, we're ending this. Quit. Look at me ain't going to make me want to put you down over there. That ain't going to happen.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.